The world held its breath. In every corner of the globe, people tuned in, their eyes glued to screens, their hearts pounding with uncertainty. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the fate of the future itself was suspended in a single moment. Today, October 28, 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping were set to meet. The world's two most powerful leaders, each carrying the hopes and anxieties of billions, prepared to face each other across a table that seemed to stretch the distance between continents. This summit was no ordinary diplomatic event, it was a last-ditch effort to avert global crisis. The stakes had never been higher, and the consequences of failure were almost unthinkable. Tensions over trade, technology, and military maneuvers in the South China Sea had reached a boiling point. Every maneuver, every word was scrutinized for signs of aggression or concession. Global markets trembled and allies watched anxiously, desperate for stability. Investors braced for impact, knowing that a single headline could send shockwaves through economies from New York to Shanghai. Every move from Washington and Beijing was under a microscope. Intelligence agencies, journalists, and ordinary citizens alike tried to read between the lines, searching for any hint of what might come next. The rhetoric was sharp, the stakes enormous. Peace or escalation? Behind closed doors, diplomats and military advisors debated, aware that a single miscalculation could tip the balance. The summit's location, a neutral Southeast Asian venue, symbolized hope for compromise. The world's eyes turned to this place, a rare island of calm in a sea of uncertainty, where history might be rewritten. Security was tight, with every precaution taken to ensure the talks could proceed without incident. Behind the scenes, teams of interpreters, advisors, and local officials worked tirelessly, knowing the smallest detail could matter. For Trump, it was a chance for a historic deal. For Xi, an opportunity to project strength. Both leaders were determined to emerge victorious, but both knew that compromise might be the only path to peace. Yet, unease lingered. Military forces from both nations shadowed each other in the Indo-Pacific, each side blaming the other for provocation. The world's most advanced warships and aircraft danced a dangerous ballet, their crews on edge, awaiting orders. The world watched, fearing that a single misstep could spark disaster. In capitals across the globe, leaders held urgent calls, contingency plans at the ready, hoping for the best but preparing for the worst. And then, as the summit approached, the unthinkable happened. A sudden development sent shockwaves through the diplomatic community, threatening to upend the fragile hope for peace. The world braced for what would come next. The news broke like a thunderclap, sending shockwaves through military and civilian circles alike. Headlines flashed across screens worldwide, and speculation erupted instantly. What could have caused such a sudden and dramatic disappearance? A US F-35 stealth fighter, one of the most advanced jets in the world, vanished from radar over the South China Sea, gone in an instant, leaving behind only questions and confusion. The jet had been on a routine patrol, its flight path monitored closely, when it simply ceased to exist on screens. Moments later, a US Navy Seahawk helicopter from the same carrier group also disappeared without a trace. The crew had reported nothing unusual, and then, radio silence. Two disappearances, back to back, in the same stretch of contested sea. Two advanced aircraft, lost within 30 minutes, in one of the world's most heavily monitored and disputed regions. Coincidence seemed unlikely, and the sense of unease grew with every passing minute. The incidents occurred in a region where US and Chinese forces operate dangerously close, their ships and planes often shadowing each other in tense standoffs. Every move is watched, every signal analyzed, and the risk of miscalculation is ever present. Search and rescue teams scrambled at first light, launching boats and aircraft into the vast expanse. But the ocean, so full of secrets, offered only silence in return. No distress signals, no debris, just empty waves. Destroyers and aircraft scoured the area, desperate for any sign of life or wreckage. Hours passed and hope began to fade as the search grid expanded, stretching resources and nerves to the limit. As daylight faded, hope dimmed. The mission shifted from rescue to recovery. Exhausted crews faced the grim reality that the odds of finding survivors were slipping away with the sun. The world now faced a grim reality. 2 American military aircraft down, crews missing, and tensions at a breaking point. Families waited for news that never came. while officials struggled to piece together what had happened. The timing and location raised urgent questions. Was it an accident, a catastrophic malfunction, or something more sinister? Investigators pored over data, searching for any clue that could explain the twin disappearances. The mystery deepened and the stakes soared. Every unanswered question fueled new theories, and every theory carried its own risks. The world braced for the fallout, knowing that whatever the truth, its impact would be felt far beyond the South China Sea. The news jolted Washington into crisis mode. The sudden development sent shockwaves through the corridors of power, triggering an immediate and intense response from the highest levels of government. President Trump was briefed before dawn. The gravity of the situation was clear. The early morning hours saw a flurry of activity as key advisors and military officials gathered to assess the unfolding events. The Pentagon issued a terse, fact-based statement. It was a carefully crafted message, designed to inform without inciting panic, emphasizing the need for verified information. Search and rescue efforts were underway, but speculation was avoided. The focus remained on action and results, with teams mobilizing swiftly to address the crisis. Behind closed doors, urgency and caution prevailed. The atmosphere was tense, with every decision weighed carefully to avoid missteps. Trump's advisors urged restraint. Any accusation could derail the summit or spark conflict. The stakes were high and the need for a measured response was paramount. The focus: gather facts, avoid blame. Intelligence teams worked around the clock, sifting through data to piece together a clear picture of the situation. In a televised address, Trump honored the missing, promised a full investigation, and reassured the nation. His words were chosen to convey empathy and determination, and called for unity, no mention of China. The omission was deliberate, aimed at maintaining diplomatic balance. Diplomats reached out to allies, seeking support and solidarity. The international community's response was crucial in navigating the crisis. And Beijing, demanding transparency and cooperation. The dialogue was delicate, balancing firmness with the need for collaboration. The U.S. walked a tightrope, assertive, but careful not to escalate. Every word and action was measured to avoid unintended consequences. The administration's measured response aimed to keep diplomatic channels open. Maintaining open lines of communication was essential for de-escalation. The fate of the summit and global stability hung in the balance. The world watched closely, aware that the outcome could shift the geopolitical landscape. The world waited for answers. The tension was palpable, with everyone hoping for a resolution that would bring clarity and calm. Beijing's response was swift and guarded. The foreign ministry expressed concern but blamed U.S. military operations for regional instability. China denied involvement, insisting its forces acted professionally and at a safe distance. Behind the scenes, Xi Jinping's team scrambled for information, wary of escalation or blame. State media shaped the narrative. America's presence was risky, and mechanical failure was likely. The message to the Chinese public was clear. China was strong, responsible, and not at fault. The leadership's priority: avoid conflict, control the story, and protect national interests. The world saw two superpowers locked in a tense diplomatic dance. Investigators raced to explain the twin crashes. 3 theories emerged: tragic accident, technical malfunction, or deliberate attack. Mechanical failure or sudden weather was possible, but unlikely for both aircraft at once. A cyber attack or systemic flaw was considered, raising fears of sophisticated interference. The most explosive theory: foul play, possibly by China or another actor, using missiles or electronic warfare. No distress calls were made, suggesting a sudden catastrophic event. The black boxes held the answers, but the ocean kept its secrets. Without evidence, speculation ran wild. The world teetered between accident and the specter of war. In the U.S., shock turned to anger and suspicion. Social media exploded with accusations against China. Politicians demanded a tough response. Calls to cancel the summit grew louder as public outrage narrowed diplomatic options. In China, state media fueled national pride and mocked U.S. military failures. Beneath the bravado, ordinary citizens feared escalation and disruption. Both governments faced intense pressure to appear strong, yet avoid war. The incident exposed raw nerves and deep mistrust on both sides. Leaders struggled to balance public sentiment with the need for restraint. the world watched as emotions threatened to override reason. The risk of miscalculation grew by the hour. The crisis had become a test of leadership and diplomacy. The crashes cast a shadow over the Trump-Xi summit. Diplomats scrambled to salvage months of preparation as the summit teetered on collapse. Canceling would signal deepening rifts, preceding risked appearing weak. Trump faced criticism from all sides, appeasement or escalation. Xi's team refused to beg for talks, insisting on China's innocence and sovereignty. Both sides waited, each hoping the other would blink first. International leaders urged dialogue, warning that failure would fuel confrontation and instability. The summit's fate became a global drama, with the world's future at stake. The diplomatic tightrope was stretched to its limit. The next move could define a generation. As the shock faded, uncertainty remained. Search teams found no answers. The cause of the crashes was still a mystery. The incident exposed the fragility of global order and trust between the US and China. Even if ruled accidental, the damage was done. Diplomatic scars would linger. The world waited. Would the summit proceed, or would a new Cold War begin? Every hour without answers fueled fear and speculation. The world held its breath, hoping for reason to prevail. The questions lingered and the stakes had never been higher.